Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. If we can just get an indication that you're all online and that you can hear me and see everything and that we are good to go. It's really great to see you all again and getting quite used to our Friday lunchtime webinars. I think they're proving extremely useful for people just to really get some value and learn some new tips and tricks about life and particularly how to be a successful student. So please do engage with us on the chat and let us know what your questions are and how you're experiencing that. We are going to get into some content very shortly and look forward to also seeing your questions coming through on the chat line. And we'll pick those up as we go through the session this afternoon. So, just by way of introduction, as you should be by now, be fairly familiar with myself as the student success coach, and having got my PhD this year. And I think those of you that have been to a couple of the webinars previously probably have a good sense of what I do, but I create courses for people and offer them to you guys in these webinars. And I see many of you in those courses and getting lots of value from them, which is absolutely fantastic. So, um, really great to interact with you both in Udemy and also in the courses themselves, and really want to encourage all of you to go and check out some of those courses that we've been talking about in the webinars. You will continue to get lots of great value from them. So do pop a couple of chats. Just let us know where you're from, which university. If you are coming through from Wits or Pretoria, or I think we've got Nelson Mandela Bay University students joining us today. It would be great to hear from you guys and let us know which universities you guys are coming through from today. We had a lot of Wits and Takis last time, and I think quite a few UNISA students. So always good to see the mix that we have across the different universities in South Africa, and I think also coming in from even a couple of other countries as well around the world, which is absolutely fantastic. So as everybody is coming online, please do pop a chat in and let us know where you're from and what questions you would like to have answered today. The topic for today is live. With what we're going to do in the live coaching session, we're going to go through CV writing, we're going to talk about interviews, and then we're going to talk about LinkedIn networking. And this is just such an important topic that comes up so often. I coach students as well, and although many of us are obviously focused on our degrees and getting our qualifications, we have to make sure that we're doing that so that we are employable and that those qualifications can be put to good use in the workplace. Many of us, we may go into corporate and work in those teams and in those environments and start climbing the ladder there. But equally, many of us will also go and create businesses and be entrepreneurs and be employers, which we also need in society as well. We need people to be creating um, jobs for other people to get that employment. And I think the skills that you'll learn this afternoon in this session are going to be absolutely useful for both, whether you're going into formal employment or whether you're hiring people. Just how you position yourself, how you network with others, how you put a CV together, how you make sure that you are employable, and that you package your experience and your skills in the best possible way. All of these are going to be absolutely crucial skills to have in your life and as a student and as you go into the workplace. So good to see just so many people coming online today. And please make sure that you go and subscribe on the YouTube channel so that you can get regular updates. And there's lots of links all over the place for you to guys to go and join the Facebook group as well. Our members only Facebook group. Come in there and get all the updates in there as well, and all the announcements about the webinars and everything that happens in the student success coach community. Okay, so I think let's start getting into what we wanted to cover today, so that you guys can start getting some really good value out of the session. So as I've briefly introduced myself a couple of times previously, if you've been on these webinars, you'll know got my PhD this year, but couldn't walk across the stage due to coronavirus lockdowns. But of course, had a special graduation from home ceremony with my family, which was lovely. And you can go pick up my courses on Udemy, join us in the members only Facebook group. And then obviously you're on YouTube, but now at the moment watching the live stream, and I put out lots of videos there, lots of daily content and updates that provide lots of value on lots of different topics related to student success. So, um, a lot of the things that you'll see in my courses, are very practical. And we spoke last time about the productivity course. And, this is really going to give you the tips and tricks to improving your time management and getting yourself organized. And as you apply yourself to your work and to your studies, and I'm sure that many of you are studying and have exams at the moment. So grateful that you can join us and take a break for lunch on a Friday and get some additional value while you're having lunch. I mean, it's all about multitasking as best as we possibly can. So Rafumo, I see you've just subscribed, so thanks very much for that. Good to have you on board, Rafumo. Many of you also, I think, going to come and check out the Facebook group and subscribe to the channel, and that's where you'll get all the value and all the updates about the webinars. And if you go into the courses, and I'll take you through some of the content from specifically a course on boosting your job prospects and your career growth, you'll see I teach a lot from the whiteboard, so that I really break it down for you so that you can see exactly what it is that you need to know before you actually go into the course and you have a look at each of the individual lessons. Right, so let's talk about networking. And this is some of the points that I cover in the course, but it does take work. It is something that you have to be a little bit patient at. It doesn't happen overnight. You and again, it's don't make a distinction between being very social versus a professional network where you have people that you connect with and through which you exchange value. Any kind of network requires the exchange of value. So if you're looking for a mentor or somebody to coach you in your network, they're going to give you some value in terms of their experience and their advice. And as you go through your career, you'll look to those types of people to give you the input on the next steps that you should take or the issues that you're dealing with. And you are also going to be giving value to them. They are going to be developing in their own set of skills and experience in terms of how they mentor and coach, and that is something that they have added to their skill set. And you are one of their mentees, and so the challenges that you bring and the discussions that you have with them is also about providing value into that relationship. And of course, you must always keep any relationships in your network balanced and ethical. I think intuitively we all know when strong or close alliances start to become risky, and that's why I like LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is that single place where you're able to manage all your networks, manage all your contents, and just understand the different categories of relationships, the different categories that your different contacts fall into, and the value that you get from each of them. And the value that you'll put into your network is through LinkedIn, where you'll be able to post, and we'll go and have a look just now at LinkedIn, and I'll show you how that works. And you'll be able to put value into your network through LinkedIn. And of course, there's a lot that you're going to have to do in face-to-face, and there may be a huge amount of that which is digital. As we all know, the world has changed this year, and we're all very reliant on digital platforms and digital means of communicating. But the one-on-one engagement that you can do, and which will be very much a part of your overall networking efforts, is something that you must be very cognizant of. And through LinkedIn, understand where you're getting value in your networks and where you can contribute value in, and follow up with people as you need to go through your career, both as a student and as a professional. So build up your network, use LinkedIn to do that. Make sure that you're doing the necessary work that you must to get value from your network and to put value into it. And then, of course, your LinkedIn profile, we'll look at that just now, but put some effort into that. Keep it updated, keep it factual, keep it professional. And I think, what I'm very big on in our webinars is that you take action as a result of these sessions. So first of all, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, then your action, your homework from this webinar is to go this afternoon, this weekend, whenever you've got a chance, go onto linkedin.com, set yourself up there. It's fairly intuitive. I take you through part of that process in my course, but just follow the steps, very much like you set up a Facebook or a Twitter account. Go onto LinkedIn, and I'll show you just now some of the ways in which you can update your profile. But the more you use it, the more confident that you will get with using it. But maybe as a result of today's session, you take some action and you go and set that up for yourselves, and you're getting some value from the time that we spend together. And then you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you do my courses and you get certificates on Udemy, which you can add to your CV, please do tag me in those certificates. When you get to the end of the course, you'll have an opportunity to share that into social media. And by all means, you can share that onto LinkedIn. And again, your network will see that you've done a course on Udemy from myself, but please tag me as well. Otherwise, I won't be able to see it. And by all means, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I think very importantly is this idea of how we see ourselves as a brand, and how we see ourselves as what we have to offer a prospective employer, and how we see ourselves as contributing into a network and to people that connect with us. And of course, a CV is a couple of pages within which you're able to do that. And LinkedIn gives you a lot more detail through which you can position yourself. But you are a brand. You are somebody that has a lot of potential. You are studying at fantastic institutions, and you are going to get that degree, and you're going to be able to add to that profile, and everything that you add to it is going to build the brand that you have and which you can offer to prospective employees and employers out there in the world, and which I think you must be very conscious and deliberate about how you add to that. So don't be too casual and flippant about how you add value through updating your LinkedIn profile, and where you go in to put your information, and the way that you word that, and the way that you position that. And just like you are fairly conscious, I would imagine, about your Facebook profile and what you put on there. And of course, one must be very careful and diligent about what you do post. And you obviously all have freedom of expression, but in a professional context. And as you're putting content onto LinkedIn and creating value for your network and your employer and people that are connected with you, just remember that you are also a brand, and everything that you put in there is going to be adding to it, hopefully, and not detracting from it. I think that's the most important thing, is that you shouldn't be detracting from your brand as far as possible. Okay, and I think there are some very practical, good reasons for why you should use LinkedIn, and I put a couple of them there. And I think one thing that a lot of people miss out on is the recommendations piece. So one of the very powerful aspects of LinkedIn is that you can give and receive recommendations. And the recommendations, and I'll show you just now on a couple of pages from my LinkedIn profile. Your recommendations is the social proof that you can get from other people based on jobs that you have done or work that you performed for other people, and which all build up your brand, but is not in your own words, is in the words of other people who have got value from you, and then through recommendations are able to post onto your page, and which employers will then have a look at, and you can approve those recommendations. But also, don't just expect to get recommendations from people. You'll need to give some recommendations to get recommendations back. It's a very good practice to go and look in your network and just choose maybe a handful of people that you think you would like to recommend, and then you can write a recommendation for them and go and put it on their page. They'll obviously also approve it, but then when you ask them back for a recommendation, obviously they're going to be much more likely to give it, because there's that quid pro arrangement in the network. Like we said earlier, a network is an exchange of value. So one of the practical exchanges of value which LinkedIn makes possible is the giving and the receiving of recommendations. So please do make sure that that's something possibly that you could take advantage of this afternoon, and some action that you could take as a result of this session. Maybe list 5 people that you want recommendations from, and which you're able to give a recommendation of on their work. So it's typically somebody that's maybe at your level, or that you feel you are able to give input to, and write a recommendation about. Choose those 5 people and go and give them a recommendation this afternoon. And so that's good, solid action that's building up your profile as well. And remember, when people go and look at their profiles, they'll see your recommendations, and they'll be able to click through from there, and they'll know that you are somebody that gives recommendations, and they will then see the potential value of connecting with you. And remembering that, yes, you're interacting with other people, you're building your network, but this is everything now that a prospective employer is looking at. And there are employers out on LinkedIn today actively looking for people with your skills, looking for people with skills that are demonstrated through the social proof of recommendations. There are jobs posted on LinkedIn, which you can set reminders for, and that you can look for and position your CV for, and position your profile, and everything about your profile that you have to offer with regards to that job. So job searching is something that LinkedIn is very powerful for, and which I would strongly advise, if you are in the market and you're looking to position yourself, that you do get a sense of what is out there in terms of the jobs that employers are posting, etc. So, there's some really powerful reasons to use LinkedIn, but then there are also some important tips. So I would, very much suggest that you keep it as professional as possible. Make sure that you put professional photographs on there. This is a professional networking environment that you must, always remember, and think about when you're posting photographs, and where you're putting visual information onto LinkedIn. And the more confidence you get with LinkedIn, the more that you'll be able to do in terms of adding videos, or linking to articles, etc., or even writing your own articles. I mean, I started blogging on LinkedIn about 5 or 6 years ago. There is a feature on LinkedIn where you can write your own articles, and that gives you a great opportunity to then make a contribution into your network based on your writing ability and your knowledge and awareness of a certain topic. So when you put photographs on there, make sure they are professional as well. And then in terms of your profile, make sure that you summarize it, and that you make it high impact. We've spoken about the recommendations. I've spoken briefly about blogging on LinkedIn and sharing or publishing great content. You'll be in a certain field, and you'll be an expert in a certain topic, and you will see certain information and certain articles, and you can share those on LinkedIn, and people will start to build up a picture of you and an understanding of the brand that you have to offer through the content and the pictures and the articles, etc., that you actually share. So very important that you're quite deliberate in how you do that. And just another quick tip is the great hashtag open to work. There's a very popular hashtag and feature that LinkedIn have rolled out, where you can actually put an open to work banner on your page and be part of that hashtag, which is very active, and I think where people are making themselves available for jobs, and which equally, as I said, employers are looking at for people who are open to work. And then on the basis of your skills and your experience, you might be able to pick up something there if you are in the market and looking for work. So let's just go into LinkedIn then, and so this is the main feed, that once you've set up your profile and you start following a few people, you would then be able to see a feed of articles in the middle. You'd then be able to see some information about your own profile in the top left. You'd be able to see some information about the people that are in your sphere of influence and in your network around the feed, and you'd be able to use the features at the top there to go into each of them and to have a look at other areas of LinkedIn, and which we'll go in and have a look at just now as well. But your main feed is going to be a function. Yes, there are algorithms in LinkedIn, and just like any other social media channel, they're not always easy to figure out, and they don't always work as intuitively as we think they should. And I guess we would all have our own views about how those algorithms are biased in terms of what content um, gets put in front of us. And you will be able to see how many views and likes, and obviously what people's response is to your own content, and use those to then curate what content and what information you put out into LinkedIn, based on your confidence and usage of the platform, to get a good sense of what other people find useful as they go through what you make available. And so in the top section there, you'll see, and I go through a live or a screen flow demo of LinkedIn in the course. Um, and you'll be able to see a section at the top there called My Network. And I mean, this links very strongly to what we're talking about this afternoon. And this literally is then your network on LinkedIn. This then is where you will be able to invite people to join your network. And once they connect with you, then they are a first connection. A second connection is somebody who's connected to one of your connections, but which you're not directly connected to. And then a third connection is somebody who's connected to a second degree connection of yours. And as you get invitations from people to connect to them, they'll show up here in your network feed. So maybe one of the actions you can take today is to find me on LinkedIn, go and connect with me there, and then we're connected. And when you get your certificate from the course, you'll be able to tag me when you put your certificate up on your LinkedIn profile. And again, that's all just social proof that is, increasing your brand and helping you to drive value from your network. And then, as you can see there on the screen, LinkedIn also makes some recommendations to you of people that you may want to connect with. And you can then go and choose to connect with those. And as I said, the algorithms will determine who's looking at your feed, who's looking at content that people in your connections are looking at, and all of those algorithms going to then make recommendations. And that's obviously the power of the platform, is the algorithms and the recommendations that the platform makes about who it thinks you should connect with. And very much like if you've been on Instagram and Facebook, it's pretty much exactly the same principles, but your networking feature there is where you would be able to go in and manage your network. And you can see there on the left, my network of connections. And then you have also the option to add in teammates and contacts, and see whether you want to follow people or groups, or even subscribe into newsletters. There's a lot of great features that you can take advantage of in LinkedIn, which I would highly advise that you do, and that's all part of that network feature inside LinkedIn. And now what gets really quite powerful, and so Mano, thanks for subscribing to the channel, and those of you that haven't yet subscribed, please hop onto the channel, find the link down below there somewhere, and just hit subscribe and make sure that you click the bell to get notifications. And then any one of the videos, you can find the link to come and join us in the members only Facebook group. We really look forward to seeing you there. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, I am open to one-on-one telephonic coaching. We can set up a 30-minute call, and I can see where you need some help. I don't charge for that, but the best way of getting in touch with me is in the members only Facebook group. So follow one of the links and pick that up to come and join us in the members only Facebook group, and get lots of updates and reminders of future webinars, etc. Okay, so now inside LinkedIn, there's a very powerful search feature. And just like any of these platforms, LinkedIn is a massive search engine. And once again, the search engine optimization, or SEO, is going to be a function of the content that's available on the platform. And the reality is that you are part of that content. Your profile, your brand, what you post onto LinkedIn, the skills you have, the recommendations that you get, uh, the response that people put on in terms of how they like or don't like your content is all going to feed into the search algorithms. So you can now go in there and you can search, as you can see there, for people. You can search for jobs, you can search for content or companies or schools or groups or events, and really just go and explore now the whole professional world inside LinkedIn through any of those different categories. And I would suggest that you do go in there and try that out and see what you get. And obviously, you can filter those search results according to those different categories. And I think on the topic of today's session around networking and CV writing, you're probably going to be quite interested in the jobs category. So go and click on jobs and see what you get there in terms of the jobs that you would be looking for. And so I've done a search there on jobs, and I can't remember exactly what my search criteria was, but it's recommended to me jobs based on my profile. So you can see there ABSA, MTN, PPS, BDO, a lot of the banking, consulting, telecommunications types of jobs, which are very similar to, the jobs in the career and the roles that I've had over the years. And LinkedIn will make unique recommendations for you based on what it is that you're looking for and based on your individual profile and what it is that you're in the market for. And on those jobs, as you see them, you can also then put a little reminder so that when those jobs are updated or when they close or when they're expecting applications, LinkedIn will then notify you about those jobs and any changes to them. And remembering that, as I said earlier, recruiters are not only putting jobs on there, they're also actively looking for people. And even if they're not in your network, they can have a premium version of LinkedIn to get a message into your inbox. And those are typically the headhunters or the agencies, the recruiters. And if you really invest time in your LinkedIn profile, then I'm fairly certain that eventually you will start to get headhunted, and that really is an indication of success of building your brand and building your profile on LinkedIn. Um, and then obviously, like you would have inside Facebook or Instagram, there's a feed that you can get to view all of your notifications and to see where people have commented or liked on your comment on your content. And you can see there, this was my graduation from home earlier. So had nearly 300 comments there, 2,000 reactions or whatever it was. And so what I learned from when I put that content on there was that the keywords that I put in that content was obviously something that LinkedIn was prioritizing in people's feeds, simply because it was during lockdown and it was something that was very topical and that a lot of people were talking about. I don't think it was necessarily the content of my post or my pictures. It was just a very important issue at the time, when obviously in South Africa we were going through our lockdowns, and many countries around the world were also going through their lockdowns. This was something that people were already searching for, and LinkedIn wanted to put in front of people. And I think I had about 130,000 views of that or something like that. So it was really one of those viral posts that was probably very lucky and not by design at all. Okay, so now inside LinkedIn, you can manage your profile. And as I said to you earlier, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, then take some action from this course and go and set up a LinkedIn profile. And you will be able to then update that profile. And I'm just going to walk you through a couple of screens now of my own profile. So this is when I go in and I've logged in and I can update my profile. So you can see there, you can even add a profile section. You can put a bit of a background picture. You can put a profile picture in there, and then you just scroll down through that, and you're able to then put in a lot more information about your profile and where you've been working and what dates you've been in certain jobs, etc. So there's a couple of the profile sections. You can then, put in skills and accomplishments and additional information, a little bit of background. You can actually also feature certain posts. So if there's an article that you shared previously, you can actually feature that on your profile. So now imagine that article or the blog that you've created has gone into your feed and it's now way down the bottom of anybody's feed, and there's lots of content that's been added into that feed. You can keep people looking at that content by featuring it on your profile. So if you go and look at my profile, you'll see I've featured a couple of articles that I would want people to be able to go back and have a look at. So when people come and look at my profile, they can look at those featured articles. Those are particularly important that I want to be available, and people shouldn't have to search too far to find them. And people know they can go and have a look at them inside my profile. So you get a headline at the top, and you must make sure that your headline is high impact, and then you get a more detailed about section, and that really is starts to go into what you put into a CV. But in LinkedIn, you can put a little bit more detail than you would in a CV. So you're more than welcome to go and have a look at mine. I haven't actually updated mine for a while. I need to update mine. But there's just a couple of key bullet points there on my skills and experience and what I have to offer to an employer. And then there's a typical activity page there where you can see what how you've interacted with other content, and then when people can come onto your profile and see what how you've interacted on other people's content as well. So very similar to your normal sort of social media platforms and feeds, etc. And then obviously now you can get into the detailed experience section of your profile. And this is where, over time as you move between jobs, you must just make sure that you keep this updated. And what I always say to people is that this is not your CV. This is your full profile. Your CV really is a recent summary of the last couple of roles that you have. And obviously, if it's earlier on in your career, then that is going to be the sum total of your profile. But I mean, I've been in business 20 years, and when I've prepared shorter CVs over the years, I've really been very selective from the most recent roles. But what LinkedIn does is it keeps all of that for you. So you can go and put that in there and have that as a bit of a track record, because writing it down somewhere else and keeping it on a file somewhere, it's just so much easier if you keep it all in one place and put it onto LinkedIn. Now, equally, recruiters can go and look at all of this. And if they're very interested in you, they're going to go and look at all of this detail. But if it's you that's applying for a job and it's you that are trying to get in front of recruiters and managers, then you definitely don't want to put all the detail that you would have on your LinkedIn profile. The value of LinkedIn is that it's there in one place for you to go and extract out of and put it into your CV. And we'll talk about a CV tool that you can use just now. So we spoke about recommendations. You can also get endorsements for skills. So let's say you put up on your profile that you have business process and change management and strategy as a skill. You can go and get people to endorse you for those skills. So all they have to do is say, yes, I endorse this person for that skill. And it's additional social proof of those skills, because, and again, social proof is so powerful because people will know if I put cooking on my LinkedIn profile, no one's going to endorse me for cooking because I'm not a good cook. So in a sense, it's the power of the marketplace where people can see what everybody else is posting. And the highest endorsed skills are the ones that are going to go to the top. So my most endorsed skills are what you see there. Business process, I've got more than 99 endorsements. Change management, more than 99 endorsements. Strategy. And if I click show more, I'll see the other skills. And it's not only skills that I've put on there, but also what LinkedIn has recommended and thinks I have as skills, and then goes and asks other people to endorse for me. And once somebody's endorsed it as a skill, then it pops up on my profile. And you would be able to then go all the way down to the bottom and see, the skills for which I have the lowest number of endorsements. And that again just gives a rating scale of the social proof of what your network feels you are skilled at doing. And now let's talk about recommendations. And I really feel this is one of the most underutilized features of LinkedIn. And we've said today, guys, that I want you to take action and go and find 5 people that you can write a recommendation for, but who you would value getting a recommendation from in return. And so if you haven't set up your LinkedIn profile, go do that, get it up and running, and then go and connect with a few people. Connect with myself if you want. And if you've already got people in a network, then go and pick a few that you want to get a recommendation from. But send them a recommendation first. Even if they didn't ask for one, you can maybe just let them know on WhatsApp or whatever the case may be. And once you've given them that recommendation, then you're in a good position to ask for a recommendation back. So you'll see there I've received 29 recommendations, but I've given 19 recommendations. So there's a fair amount of quid pro quo there, and value exchange, as I've said earlier on in the session. And you can go and read my recommendations. They're all public there as well. Okay, so that's LinkedIn, and I think a very powerful tool for you to use to build up and expand your own network and your profile, and everything that you want people to be aware of and that you want to keep track of in your network, and which you can then draw on to write up your CV and go into in the process of creating your CV. And the process of creating your CV then is one that I want to talk about now, and to just share with you a tool which I do teach in the course as well, called Nova Resume. And Nova Resume, in fact, Elon Musk uses Nova Resume as well. And he's got a well-known CV of only 2 pages. And if you think about, Elon Musk and all that he's been able to achieve in his life, he could quite rightly have a CV of 20 pages, but he has condensed it down to only 2 pages. And I guess, is there the right number of pages for any CV? There isn't the right number of pages necessarily. You may have a template that you're working towards, that an agency recommends to you. There may be, different sections or different pages for different aspects of your CV, and none of those are wrong. If you go through an agency and you're in the market, you should use their template, because that's what they're going to be used to providing to their clients. But if you're just putting a CV together that you want to put out on LinkedIn, or that you want to voluntarily send through to companies, I do highly recommend Nova Resume. And don't be put off by the fact that it's called resume. That's just the American term for a CV. In South Africa, we use the term CV a lot more, but I think it's a very powerful tool. It creates that aesthetic, high impact visual aspects that I think is so important, and that employers look at. And look, I've been hiring people, and I've interviewed people, and I've coached and mentored people for 20 years. And something like what I'm going to show you now would stand out a lot more from the traditional Microsoft Word CVs. Now, of course, you can never substitute, you know, the visual appeal for the proper content that needs to go into something. So don't sort of try and make the mistake of thinking that you could make a CV look fancy and sort of inflate the content of it in terms of your skills and experience. You must always be absolutely factual and objective in that. But there are better ways of presenting something visually through to an employer. And I think that Nova Resume gives you that feature, and it's quick and easy to use. So when you go in, and if you haven't set up a profile in Nova Resume, then please do that. Take action again from the webinar today, and go and open up a profile on Nova Resume. And when you go in there, you'll be able to select from a couple of different templates. And that's one of the really powerful features in Nova Resume, is that you can actually quickly select a layout. And obviously, if you're doing it from scratch or using an existing template in Microsoft Word, then we all know sometimes Microsoft Word, is very problematic in terms of moving tables around and sections. And with Nova Resume, it's all in the cloud. It's all pre-configured templates, which does give you lots of different optionality. But again, not too many options, because when you have too many options, you play around with things too often. And I think what Nova Resume does is give you the best practice of what CV layouts actually work. And it's all then up to you to go and choose which ones, which layout and which style of a CV you want to choose. So take action, go set up yourself in Nova Resume and start building out your CV. So this is the second page of mine, and so on the front page, I would have had the typical work experience and really only the last few years or the last couple of roles. And then on the second page, I add in a little bit more detail summarizing. I mean, my time at Accenture was 10 years, and I've, broken it down or summarized it into, maybe a top 9 or 10 bullet points there, and then achievements on the right-hand side, and then education at the bottom. So once again, as I explain and teach in the course, and that I think is the best practice we can observe from Elon Musk and others, is that, very often less is more. So summarize it as much as possible. Recruiters and managers don't want to wade through pages and pages and pages of information. That's not to say you couldn't mention it, and then they can ask you more about it, and that's where you'd go into more detail in the interview, for example. And then what's great about Nova Resume is it gives you best practice tips and tools. So once you load the detail in there, it'll actually flag up to you and say, look, hey, we think you've got a bit too much detail in here. Or, typically this is best practice when you are, writing down your achievements and tasks. So you can see the one there, it says, okay, the ideal number of tasks, etc., is this, and maybe you should reduce it. And you can then actually, there's a prompt to you to say, go in and fix this in the section of your CV. And on the left there, you can see the different aspects of your CV: general, work, education, awards, etc. And it's made recommendations to me in each of those sections. So it's like your own online coach for setting up a CV. And it uses obviously artificial intelligence, and it's obviously got millions of CVs that have been loaded in there. And it's obviously a platform that's been built by recruiters and experts and people who have seen what CVs work well with recruiters. So, use all of that, take advantage of that best practice that's all been loaded into the platform for you as a free tool. And it is 100% free, and you get to then download that PDF from it. I think you can choose a premium version to unlock a few extra features, but certainly everything that I'm showing you now, I haven't paid for Nova Resume, and I've used it, and I've got that 2-page PDF out of it. There's no watermarks or sales messages or anything like that. It's a good tool, and of course, because it's a good tool, I'm teaching it to you now, and they expand through your usage of it, which I think is great. And we should support them. So then again, just back up to the top page, my first page of my Nova Resume CV. You can see once again the recommendations and suggestions that it's made on different sections of my my CV at the top there, how it's laid out, etc. And you can also choose a different color palette. So you can choose the colors that you want to have. I think there's about 4 or 5 different color palettes. And I think some of those color palettes you can go in and then customize and choose the colors and the look and feel of your CV that you prefer to have. But again, sometimes having too many options, is a bad thing, because we can't then choose what it is and which ones that we want to use. So I like the pre-packaged color palettes and options that Nova Resume gives you. And once again, what I'm showing you is the 12-minute screen flow from inside the course, which you can follow and go through, and which I give you a lot more interactive demonstration of with my own CV as an example. And so, guys, just to finish off this live coaching session for today, let's talk about interviewing. So you've set up your network, you're spending some time in LinkedIn, Yes, it's great to have your social media going, but just recognize that as you get into the professional world and whatever stage you are at in your professional world, professional career, and if you're still at varsity and doing an undergrad degree and looking to get out of the workplace, my single biggest advice to you would be to get your LinkedIn profile going. Um, as soon as possible so that you can continue to add to it. Even make recommendations on fellow students. Maybe a couple of you know each other, set yourself up on LinkedIn, connect with each other, exchange recommendations. Obviously, make sure it's factual and objective, etc. But start building it up, and that's where then you manage and maintain your network. And then your CV is a summarized professional extract, if you like, from your profile. It's something that you lift out of all of that detail and that you would then provide to a prospective employer. And I've given you then a tool, Nova Resume, and I demonstrate it in my course and I go through it in a lot more detail there, and which you can sign up and take advantage of as well. And then interviewing really is now when you get a chance to sit down face to face, either in person or online, and talk to a recruiter or a line manager. And I've had some interviews where there's been a panel of 5 or 6 people. But typically in the earlier roles of your career, it should be one-on-one. It's quite intimidating to sit down in front of a panel of 5 or 6 people. And those are more senior roles that you would get to eventually. But initially, just focus on having a good interview with the person that's sitting across the table from you or on the other side of Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever the case may be. And you really want to give your best interview. You really want to make sure that the energy and the excitement, and the value and the potential that you bring to that prospective employer is part and parcel of how you communicate and how you talk to the person interviewing you. And that's a lot to do with mindset. It's a lot to do with confidence. It's a lot to do with the preparation. It's a lot to do with how you present yourself. And I always say dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And that's true whether you're coming into a company or whether you're progressing up through the ranks in a company. Stand out because of what you can offer. And good old fashioned traditional advice hasn't changed. Get up, dress up, show up. If you can do those three things every day, whether it's an interview or whether it's an exam or whether it's a proposal presentation or a PhD defense or any other significant life event that you'll have, I just want to encourage you guys. And I think we shared a couple of wonderful stories at last week's webinar. And, we saw a couple of people sharing their I will statements about commitments that they make and things that they want to achieve. And interviewing is a step, on making those achievements come to life and become a reality for you. And so you won't have a second chance to make a first impression. That is why it's called a first impression. So just go in there. And we've all heard the stories of, how there's distractions because we're all working from home, and you may often give interviews from home. And if you get distracted, just apologize and just acknowledge that there are other people, or maybe there's children, or maybe you haven't got the help that you need. And if you're in doubt as to whether you're giving the right impression, just ask if you can reschedule. And obviously, in the first instance, schedule it for when you're not going to have the distractions and you can have an hour to yourself in front of your PC to really present yourself as best as possible and to make sure that you come across effectively. I have a whole course on presentations and how to do presentations online using Microsoft PowerPoint and Microsoft Teams. So there's some principles in there that might be useful in terms of the content and the presentation that you go through. But a lot of what I'm showing you on the screen and I'm talking about there is for you as an individual, and for you to tap into your individual passion and your purpose and what it is that you want to achieve, and to bring that through in the interview and give the interview a very good sense of the value that you can offer and the importance that you attach to getting that job, and not taking it too casually. And so there we have a famous example. If you haven't seen this clip of the presenter on BBC, and where his kids came in the back, and he handled it absolutely professionally. And so obviously he's very experienced, But this is the reality of the world that we live in 2020, where there are going to be distractions, there are going to be issues. And once again, just be honest and authentic if these things happen. Typically, recruiters and line managers, and I'm one, and if this happens, I'm going to be very relaxed. And I'm going to also see how the person handles it, because in the workplace, if I was to hire that person and bring them in, there are going to be issues. There are going to be challenges that they're going to have to face. And it's a great opportunity for me to see how they react to them on the spot and as an unplanned, spontaneous, almost mini test, if you like. So don't be too hung up about having a perfect environment within which you can give an interview from home. I mean, the reality is that you are at home, and that does come with a set of circumstances that you can't fully control. Of course, if and when we sort of are more back to normal, if I can say it like that, and interviews are traditionally then at the office, you'll have a chance to go in and there'll be an interview room. And as I say, dress up and give your best, interview as best as you possibly can. And there will be, zero distractions. And in the course, I actually talk a lot more about that. If you're offered something to drink, you shouldn't necessarily ask for a double vanilla milkshake with a sprinkle of hot chocolate on the top. Just ask for a glass of water. Just keep it very practical and simple. um, you know and I talk a lot of other tips about in-person interviews, and what how you should answer certain questions, whether you should ask questions back, what aspects you should go into, what aspects you shouldn't go into. There's a whole set of principles around what interviewers should or shouldn't ask you as the candidate. But providing you have a professional interviewer and you have somebody that's capable and qualified of conducting a good interview, then in the course, and I will put a link to the course and the free access in the description of this live stream. So go in there and click the link, and you'll get access to the whole course and all the principles that I take you through, so that you can improve your job prospects. So if you haven't yet entered the workplace, or you need to go back into the workplace, what is it that you need to do to improve your job prospects? CVs, LinkedIn, other aspects to that. And then if you are in the workplace and you're climbing the ladder, how can you secondly accelerate your career growth? So I teach you there about teamwork, and I teach you there about the flow of tasks in an organization, and how you can sort of start to manage upwards, manage your boss, manage horizontally, engage with other teams. And then the aspects that we spoke about, networking and coaching and using LinkedIn and keeping your CV updated, etc., all come to play in how you grow your career and boost your job prospects. And really, to be honest with you, even though you might be working for a large company, every 2 or 3 years, you're probably going to want to change role and refresh what it is that you're doing. And very often there will still be that interview process, and you'll feel like you almost need to keep your interview skills and your CV up to date, depending on the individual department that you're going into and how strict their policies are for interviewing anyone, whether it's a completely external candidate or whether it's somebody that's already working inside the firm. So don't think that you're going to interview and prepare a CV once to get into a job or into a company. It's going to be an ongoing process of building your brand, maintaining your network, continually putting value into that network, continually updating your profile on LinkedIn, and extracting information from there into Nova Resume, which is a suggestion as a tool. You don't have to use that. You can by all means use your own template in Word, or even download one of Microsoft Word, etc. But Nova Resume is a very popular, powerful, cloud-based platform for CV creation. I think it looks quite funky. So the course will then teach you those interview techniques which we've touched on today. It'll go into a bit of time management, goal setting, and getting more done in 24 hours. We spent a whole hour on that last time, and some principles there that you could go and replay that live stream and have a look at that. As I said, CVs that stand out, I think Nova Resume is a very powerful tool that you can use. Communication skills. I do a whole lesson on managing conflict. You will have conflict in the workplace. Remember that in a modern organization, it delivers value to customers. and it can only do that because it can manage its internal costs. And so there will be natural competition within a company for limited resources and limited income, because it has to do things better than the market can do for itself. And so you'll have natural competition and natural conflict occurring within an organization. And it's not a, it's not a negative thing. It's all only about how you deal with it. And I teach you some tips and tricks for that in the course there as well. We've spoken about Nova Resume. We've spoken about LinkedIn for professional networking, and there's a few more. If you go onto the landing page, you'll see a lot more there as well. So, guys, apologies, we couldn't get the chat working today, but I trust that the live stream came through. We had a very healthy attendance today, and as I've said, I will make sure that I put the link for the free course into the description. So all you have to do is go and grab that link in the description. And then, of course, guys, please, any of the comments that you would have made on the chat, apologies, couldn't get that working today. Please put those comments into the comments on the live stream of the video. And let's get some feedback from you guys, which was a bit disappointing not to be able to get in real time in the session. We usually have quite a nice chat as we go through the session. But just a reminder, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please hop over onto the members only Facebook group, and I'll let you in there. And then you can engage with us, and then you'll get all the invites to future webinars. And just maybe to announce that next week's webinar is going to be on writing. So I have a course on how to double your academic writing quality, and that's really a great course that gives you some absolutely practical tips and tricks at a sentence construction level. So sentence by sentence, we improve and we edit your writing so that you think like a reader. And for writing projects at a master's, honors, postgraduate level, writing is going to be one of the most powerful skills that you can have. And indeed, as you write exams, I mean, it's in the word, write exams, you need to write effectively and meaningfully and with clarity. So there's a whole course on writing, but I will go through a couple of the tips and tricks and show you what's in that course, and also, as always, give you free access into that course during next week's webinar. And then the week after that, we have a live Q&A session with Dr. Jeff. Dr. Jeff will be in the house. So 2 weeks time, 12 o'clock on a Friday. And Dr. Jeff, if you've been on the members only Facebook group, you'll see he's just been awarded his second PhD. He's an absolutely brilliant guy. So I will be interviewing him live on the webinar, and you will also be able to ask him a few questions. He's a lecturer at Gibbs University, and he specializes in innovation. He is a sought after international speaker. Him and I have co-authored a couple of papers over the years, so we have a very good relationship. And I can just promise you now, it's absolutely going to be a fun interview. So mark your calendars 2 weeks from now. And the benefit of being in the members only Facebook group is that there's an event there, and you can just mark that, and it'll pop up as a reminder for you in Facebook, and then you can just hop over onto the link to come and participate in the live stream. And then the following week, and all these links are in the description of this video, we will be having a fascinating conversation with Bubu Bana, who has launched a jobs platform. So it's a gig economy platform where he makes micro jobs available for corporates. So he's got a network of corporates that need students like yourselves to come in and do micro jobs, and you can get rated on those jobs. He has a screening process. He only wants obviously high quality students on his platform, but that's 3 weeks from today, 12 o'clock. I think it's the 27th of November. So you'll be able to find out more about jobbox.co.za. So please make sure that you pop in and have a look at that. So guys, thanks very much for your time today. We're going to end the webinar there. Please leave your comments in the comments on this video. Check out all the links, and I'll also see you in the course. Improve your job prospects and boost your career growth.